Okay, we'll just get started because we just have so much to get through today. So thank you so much for coming today. It is so good to see some of our former Career Success Fellows and of course our current Career Success Fellows in a room together. We're really excited about today's panel event. We have brought together an incredible group of panelists, all of whom work at the intersection of employers and students. So, what we learn from them today can help shape how we embed career connected learning into our classrooms and campuses. They represent 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, and CUNY Central. And with that, I will actually ask them to introduce themselves. I will ask Amna to start because her name starts with A, and she can then pass the baton to the others.
Thank you, Panita. Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. My name is Amna Malik. I'm Senior Director for Career Development and Internships in the Office of Careers and Industry Partnerships in the Office of Academic Affairs. And in my work, my teams and I manage our centralized internship programming, such as Career Launch, Spring Forward, Cultural Core, working with city agencies, Model New York Senate, Internship to Employment. We also oversee the apprenticeship programming. So if you are interested in that, please do reach out. We're looking to grow and expand that as well as alumni engagement. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much. And I'll pass it to Jennifer Dillon.
Morning, everyone. Good to be here. I work alongside Amna in the Office of Careers and Industry Partnerships. My division is Talent, Innovation, and Industry Partnerships. I'm a slightly unique division in the sense that I am not a student-facing division. My sort of raison d'etre for being here at CUNY is to help industry navigate the vast CUNY-verse that it is, because the number one barrier for industry engagement to CUNY is the size of CUNY and sort of the chaos, the embedded chaos that comes with that. Having said that, so the two sort of main lines of work that are most relevant to this conversation are the Industry Support Hub, which exists to, it's a team of people who are sector-based to help industry navigate CUNY. And then the CUNY Inclusive Economy, which is, I'll touch on that a little bit later in a couple of the questions, but it's an initiative that is on 10 campuses right now at the department level that puts a industry specialist and an integrated advisor into a department to help cohorts of students attached to the jobs that they are looking for, that they're aiming at. So I will, with that, stop talking and pass it on to Ellen.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody. I'm Ellen Stein. I am the director of the Starr Career Development Center at Baruch, which oversees about 16,500 students or serves 16,500 students. We also serve faculty, staff, of course, administrators, employers, alum, in a very comprehensive way. And we work very closely with CUNY Central on a number of different grant projects and things that are housed at Baruch. And it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to be here. And I'll pass it to Travis.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Travis Fox. I work at Hunter College. I'm the director of partnerships there, working in the office of the provost. And we oversee an initiative called Hunter Works, which encompasses faculty, our industry engagements, employer relations, and our career center, serving all of our 23,000 students. And very excited to talk with y'all today. I'll pass it to Denise.
Hi, everybody. My name is Denise Olson. I am from Queensborough Community College. I am the Career and Experiential Learning Specialist in the Office of Career Services, and very excited to be here. And we, serve all our students with professional development and love collaborating with faculty to increase these initiatives to get more career learning into the classroom. So really excited to be here and look forward to the panel.
Thank you all, and good morning, everybody. You all know me. I'll be moderating with Panita. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We have thought very carefully about this assemblage of panelists that we have, 2-year, 4-year, CUNY Central, just understanding how career works. And so we're going to ask that questions that you do have, just hold off until the end. We're going to have time for that. Also, just keep in mind, just as Amna said, right, these are contacts now, and feel free to reach out to them as you follow up and hear interesting things. So we're hoping to also bridge the divide between campuses and also between the central office and ourselves. So I'm going to get started and ask Ellen and Travis and Denise to tell us, and I'm going to challenge panelists to try to stay within 2 minutes-ish so we can get to everyone. What's the biggest shift you're seeing in employer expectations within the last 5 years? We can start with Ellen. You have a thought?
Sure. I'm going to talk a little bit about process. I think some of my colleagues may speak to what they're seeing that's different. But it used to be that we would expect to see lots and lots of employers on campus with great regularity for the interviews and whatnot. And since the pandemic, interviews have shifted to be largely initial interviews to be virtual. So the students need spaces to do their interviews. You might sometimes see them in the hallways taking an interview. We always hate that. We invite them to make appointments with us and have a space. But I think the other message that students need to hear is that employers aren't backing away from wanting to get to know the students. They're just trying to get to know them differently. So they want to get to know students through the clubs. So being engaged in campus is really important because the employers notice how many times a student comes to their different engagements. Seeing an employer maybe in a classroom matters, seeing them at a fair matters. And, you know, the more that a student connects with the employers, the better. Certainly, you know, I think we'll talk about skills and AI later, but those are going to be really important other changes we've seen. But I think how an employer is recruiting a student is a bit different. They're looking for that high touch. They also go to conferences and recruit students at the conferences. So we have worked with our clubs and organizations and also asked faculty to bring classes to co-sponsor events where we know employers are going to be present. So for the sake of time, I'm going to pass it on to my colleagues, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to elaborate on some different matters that come up later.
Thank you for that. Ellen, Travis, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest shifts in the past 3 or 4 years really is around the process of recruiting and how it's changed. I think Ellen touched on some great points. But I think specifically the technology and the impact of AI on the recruiting process. We often hear, oh, AI is replacing these entry-level jobs. That's a whole other debate. It's for a different time. But what it's really doing is changing the volume and the nature of applications for entry-level roles for students looking for internships and for graduate opportunities. Application volume has skyrocketed for open roles in the last few years. Most recruiting teams say they're getting at least 3 times as many applications for new grad roles as they got in the past. And what that means is employers are getting more selective. It's getting harder just to fill an open role through an outbound application as a student. The process is generally longer than it was in the past. And they're starting to I would say pick more specific areas to screen applicants than they used to. Employers about 10% more this year are screening for GPA than they were in 2024 and 2023. They're looking for skills-based hiring indicators, so work experience, research experience in the field. And they're really looking for kind of extracurricular outside the classroom activities, to Ellen's point, that demonstrate an above and beyond interest in either the company or the sector. So coming in as a generalist with just an undergraduate degree, even if you have pretty good grades, isn't the signal or isn't a sufficient enough signal for employers at this point. They're really looking for a more curated portfolio that's going to first pass all of their applicant tracking system filters to even get to the interview stage, but then help separate a student from this large and growing body of applicants that is much higher than it was just a few years ago. So really, I think a lot of the impact of the changes is on just getting to that stage of interview, getting in front of an employer for a student. I definitely encourage patience and kind of forgiveness with faculty and folks that work directly advising students, thinking about the hundreds of applications they're having to send in now as opposed to dozens just a few years ago. And I'll pass it to Denise for her thoughts as well.
Thank you both, and you bring up such great points. And what I wanted to talk about as far as the shift is, which you Travis touched upon it a little bit, is now there is so much competition out there for students to get an internship. And we've also seen a big shift, at least at our college, from before the pandemic, there were so many more unpaid internships. And so now with the switch to so many internships being paid, that makes the competition even more challenging for students. And then the other part of it is that in order for students to um, get that experience, the employers already want them to have some experience. So it's a really tricky conundrum that the students are in, because how do you get the experience without getting the experience? And so, if we want students to be hired into these paid internships, we need to really work to prepare them early. And then the other part of that is, due to this increased competition, there's more of a need now to translate their classwork and projects onto their resumes so that they understand the skills that they're using in these projects in the classroom, how they translate on the resume. Because of, like Ellen was saying, being more involved on campus, all of that goes onto the resume. So in order to make our students more competitive out there, this is really a key issue for them, is to be able to translate those projects onto their resume. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is, we've seen, according to NACE, over the last year or two, that there's a rise in in-person work. So students are going to really need to learn how to adapt those professional skills in the workplace that they are definitely not getting working remotely. So that's going to be, an increased challenge over the next couple of years. And
Thank
that's
you
it.
so much, Denise, Travis, and Ellen. And that point about translating those skills that we do in the classroom to the resume, all of us career success fellows need to be thinking about that every time we're in the classroom, making those connections explicit. So I'm going to pose this question to Jennifer. What feedback do you receive about CUNY students from employers?
So before I get into that, I just wanted to say that, like, to Denise's point about internships, to give people sort of a sense of that scale in the competition, for CUNY alone to hit the goal of having every CUNY student have an internship before they graduate, we would need 3 times as many internships on the market than exist in the New York metro area. And that doesn't even include like us competing with like all the other universities that are here. Like, so to give a sense of like that internship pressure is real. Like, it's a supply and demand, like question, and so, one of the things that we've been working on at Central is like figuring out how to expand our internal, meaning our in this is CUNY, so how to expand our own inventory of career connected internships, and how do we do that, like with the resources that we have. So not the question, but I wanted to add that on. So I want to stress that, like, I sit at the systems level, right? So my answer is going to be really broad strokes. And of course, like, the broad strokes that I'm about to say, like, don't apply to every single CUNY student. I always feel the need to say that because I'm about to bring a little doom and gloom, but then I'm going to end with some sunshine. So like, let's work with me there. So like so in terms of through lines, right? Like, the through line that I hear is that the most is that CUNY students are just not as prepared for the workplace as their peers. Right. And that shows up in a variety of different ways. Right. And, so they don't, like we were just talking about, Denise was just talking about needing to put the skills on the resumes. It's not just being able to translate the skills from the classroom onto the resumes, it's being able to talk about their experiences in a way that makes sense and indicates to that employer or industry partner that they're talking to that they actually understand those connections. Right. Like, that they can actually like translate their experience. So they struggle more with like understanding what the workplace soft skills expectations are, like, so some of that is, how to email. Some of it's generational, yeah, of course, but like some of it is a little bit more specific to CUNY students in terms of how to do things. And some of the, sort of comment, like, you don't send an email in the same way that you would send a text. You in fact never text, your boss. That's not like how you would necessarily communicate with that stakeholder in your life, right? Um, you know, like, and we talk a lot about here at CUNY about imposter syndrome, and it's real and it's costly, and it shows up in these ways of not feeling the confidence and not possessing the confidence or knowing how to put their story forward in a way that is both compelling, you know, like, and true, you know, like, so, you know, on the positive side, like when CUNY students and they do break through those barriers, you know, and employers are very impressed by that, and they're really interested in like the dynamic aspect that CUNY students bring to the workplace, their different viewpoint, the multilingual, like all of the things that we know, the grit, the like, you know, the desire and the willingness to do what's necessary to get the thing done, you know, like, but unfortunately, like that when you're talking about is, you know, hundreds of thousands of students is too rare, and that hurts us like as a university system, you know, like when we are out there trying to interface with industry and trying to interface with employers because we're swimming upstream, you know, like from the beginning. um Having said that, you know, like here comes some of the sunshine, you know, like so this isn't something that like we're not aware of both at the local level, you know, like as well as at the systems level. And there's been, you know, a massive effort to break through these barriers and to help cover that gap for the CUNY students. Like if we know that our students need more coaching, more, you know, like exploration activities, more, then we need to provide those more things, right? You know, like so how do we do that from day one? How do we do that from their application process? How do we do that through orientation? How do we do that obviously in the classroom where you all are sitting, you know, and how do we do that? Yeah, you know, how do we do that obviously in the career centers and all the, you know, like the places that students go. And I think that CUNY has been making a concerted effort to develop the programming and the infrastructure, which I think is the important piece to make that happen across the system. So I'll pause there because it's not all about
No,
me.
thank you for that. The practices that you speak of, Jennifer, like sending an email instead of a text and so forth, can broadly be under the umbrella of what NACE would call professionalism. And we know that that can also be a very loaded, coded term, yet it is a real term that employers do value quite highly, no matter what we may think of it in the room. And so I then turn to Amna and Denise. Which behaviors signal, quote, professionalism to employers during the hiring process? And how can faculty, how can a room of folks here in this room coach explicitly in class these particular areas of professionalism? Amna?
Sure, I can kick it off, and Denise, feel free to jump in. So, you know, we hear lots of different things from different employers, depending on the sector we're in, depending on what industry they're in. And I think one of the things I wanted to highlight was that there there is a dependency that employers have of working and understanding how faculty engage the students, because that's the direct correlation they make of what they're experiencing in the internship, right? So I think when we're talking about professionalism, it's very similar to how students behave in the classroom, right? So if you're going to be late for class, if you're going to not hand in a paper in time, if you're going to miss office hours and you said you were going to be there, there is an expectation of communicating that. There's an expectation of not wasting someone else's time, just like you don't want your time wasted. And I feel like that is something that could be modeled in the classrooms and in the interaction that the faculty have with the students, because when we're speaking and doing surveys with students, faculty are the people that are the most trusted, the ones that they turn to, the ones that they think about when they're trying to understand or learn from something. So when we hear from professors that, it's great, the interview went well, we hired this person, but they didn't make it in on time, they didn't let us know, we didn't know what was happening. Or this deliverable was assigned to them and they were having challenges, they didn't say anything. These are all similar things to what happens in the classroom during or even throughout the semester with their curriculum. And I think it'd be great if faculty could find a way of highlighting that and making that connection to the student to say, communication is an age-old, remedy to many things. But I think having them see that connection to how you communicate with us in this space, in this environment, on campus, in the classroom, is kind of mirrored how you will behave with an employer, how you will behave in an internship. So I think there are many different things. There's been some really fascinating articles as well about how, etiquette has changed in the office post-COVID, but also just understanding that students, like to Jennifer's point, think in text, but they cannot behave and perform in text, right? So really getting that directly from you folks and having them understand that. And I mean, I'd be curious to know, like, how many of you speak to your students through some text or some group chats or things of that nature, right? I think there's a space for that, but that change when you're with an employer, we have to really emphasize for our students professionalism. And I will also say, as someone who's from CUNY, who's like a first gen, right, CUNY person as well, college student, I think culturally they don't get that exposure anywhere else. So there's another dependency for them to hear that from you, to say, hey, just in case this may seem obvious to others and it may not be to you, and that's okay, but this is how you behave that first day, that first week, or as you're applying. I cannot emphasize how many times students always note faculty as the people that they learn that from. So I can go on obviously more and more because I'm very passionate about this, but Denise, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amna. I'm passionate about it as well. And, you know, we all know how important professionalism is. NACE has listed it as like the number 4 in their list: critical thinking, top, communication, teamwork, and professionalism. And how students are measuring up in the workplace is 50% of what is expected. So we know that there's a lot of work to be done. And to piggyback off of Amna, we used to do a program here at QCC. It was really called Success at Work equals Success at School, but it really is success in the classroom, as Amna said, equals success at work. And it's really back to the basics and just making those connections so students really understand, you know, the way that you are behaving in the classroom is the same way, if you're doing it the correct way professionally, is the same way you're going to be successful in the workplace. And you guys both, Jennifer and Amna, stole my thunder because we just did a workshop, Miss Strauss and Sandra Strauss and I, just yesterday, no, 2 days ago, on email etiquette. And so, you know, it was a whole workshop. And one of the things I wanted to mention was that if professors could, you know, make students use provide a template and a rubric that has the greeting, the context, the clear ask, the closing, and have them start doing that from the beginning of the semester to the end, and then it's going to become more of a habit. It's not going to be something that they have to really sit down and think, well, how do I pose this email? And I had so much fun with the class because I shared some examples, as I'm sure we all have had, of emails we've gotten from students, and we are just in shock. So there's a lot of work to be done, but it's so easy, right? It's just if we start from the beginning and just point out that that's something you're going to be doing every day in the workplace. So start building those habits now, and it won't be so much work later on. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Denise and Amna. And I really appreciate when you give us suggestions and guidance that is very easy to implement in the classroom, right? That's not a big ask. And I think that would make a huge impact on our students. So, you know, one of the charges for all of our career success fellows is to collaborate with staff on their campuses and particularly career services. So I'm going to pose this question to Ellen and Travis. How would you like to see faculty collaborating with career services in specific ways? We'd love to hear that.
Go for it, Ellen.
Sure. So I'll just start by saying that although we touch probably 80% or more students in a variety of ways, 16,500 of them are not coming in to one-on-one meet with us. So it really is important, and we recognized that a while ago. So for several years now, my colleague who's on this call, Clemente Diaz, and other staff have been really working to build out not just a one-off of a workshop, we are doing those, but a variety of different things for faculty specifically to give these tips and tools, and a handful of them are accessible to you all by going on our website, and I'll certainly put that information in the chat. But what we provide is everything from, you know, one-on-one appointments with faculty, going to talk about career assignments and things that you could do. We go into the classroom, we're happy to bring presentations. I often have felt like we are airline traffic directors when it comes to employers that want to connect with faculty. Sometimes, and I see a colleague online, Ken Abbott, faculty have great ideas and come to us, and we partner with how we can co-sponsor events. We did that recently for our fine and performing arts faculty members. We helped sponsor an event where they brought back alumni. I wanted to mention, I think, Denise, you brought up earlier, that it's really hard to get experience when you have no experience. So some of the tools that we have, there's a great resource, and I'll put it in the chat, or Clemente, you could put it in the chat. It is theforage.com. And I know Clemente has worked with faculty. I've worked with faculty to help bring this tool, because a student who says they have no experience, first of all, I don't believe it because they're getting experience in your classrooms. But second of all, over the course of a weekend, a few days, a week, they can put real company names and do simulations from those companies and have skills and things to talk about in an interview where there's no gatekeeping. So it's really an amazing resource. And you'll also see that Clemente added a blog. He created a blog where faculty who are doing this can spotlight their best practices. And you can all access that blog. I don't think this was in the blog, but this is an example of my absolute favorite thing I've heard when working with faculty. There was an English professor who her students were reading novels, and she wanted to embed career into the classroom. And her solution was to have the students pick a character and write a resume for that character. And I just think that's phenomenal. I love that idea. And then, there's also a bot. We're trying to get ahead and or stay with understanding AI. I will also say, going back to the first question, that, not only are employers using it to scan resumes, but we, career services, are now helping students learn how to get past applicant tracking systems using special tools. Like at Baruch, it's called JobScan. So I encourage you to meet with your career services office to help figure out what tools are already there. We are happy to give you those. And I know there's other questions, I'll say more, but there are so much that you're already doing that is just about uncovering it and being a little bit more explicit with your students so that they realize all the great nuggets that they're getting from your class. But we are here. We would love to partner with faculty. And I'll pass it on to Travis.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. Yeah, I always think that stat is fascinating, that only about 30% of students are going to touch career services at a centralized level over their undergraduate experience. The other 70% are relying on their peers, their faculty members, their academic advisors to give them that guidance, and the folks that they're seeing regularly. And so it really is a joint effort, and it has to be a partnership if we want to get the best resources in front of those students. I think Ellen touched on some of the basics that I always recommend: the class visits, doing workshops together, referring students out to the resume workshops or on-campus recruiting that's happening. But really, I think where the partnership can be strengthened is understanding that as faculty members, you are the experts in your domain in a way that us at the centralized level are never going to be. Like, I can talk all about how to work with an employer or about a student's job search, but I never will understand chemistry in that industry at a level that somebody in that department will. And so where I've seen that partnership be really effective on campus is when we can take the fundamental and generalized approach that the Career Service Center is offering around, like, workshops, job boards, how to construct a search as a student, and tailor it to that individual department and work together to offer it to students. So a good example from this semester, we worked with a coordinator in our religious studies departments to understand where are their alumni going, what do the common job titles look like for what can be a really diverse fields out of that major. And then completely redid a presentation around, how students can start to think about mapping out their career based on real data from the department and also the best practices that the department didn't have before around the job search from the Career Center. So I really think having that level of customization, coming to the table to say, how can we make this information more relevant for students, is really crucial. I also think maybe shifting the responsibility away from faculty and onto administration is important here. It is a busy job that professors and faculty members have, and trying to find what the best resources are, do that industry research on your own on top of day-to-day responsibilities is daunting. So a couple of the things that I think are effective that leadership should be investing in more are programs to reward and incentivize more career work for faculty. We implemented a few programs at Hunter this past year curriculum innovation grants for faculty members that are redesigning their syllabi or who are hosting more career-related work within the classroom. We have a faculty career fellow program that offers a year-long stipend for faculty members to host career events and also report on internship outcomes. And then I think for every faculty member that's in this room, there are 5 to 10 adjunct faculty members that are onboarding in any given semester who don't have this repository of resources, who aren't used to the community on campus. And I think from a peer learning standpoint, from an onboarding standpoint, departments and administration can be doing a lot more to get resources and opportunities in front of the hands of those new members of the team. So I do think it is a responsibility shared across campus at multiple different levels, but those are a few of the recommendations that I have.
Well, thank you for those, Travis. And Travis, you mentioned data-driven work. We'll be calling upon you for numbers in just a few minutes, so be ready. But I'm going to shift a little bit to partnerships. You did mention partnerships, but specifically industry partnerships. So this is for Amna and also for Jennifer. We know that industry partnerships are on the other side. They're critical for our students and their success. What do colleges need to be doing to increase partnership? And also, given that this is generally a room of faculty, is there anything that faculty can be or should be or need to be doing with regard to partnership?
Want me to go first, Amna? Is that what that chin nod was? Okay. All right. So I want to piggyback actually off of something that Travis was talking about, which is sort of workplace context. You used the chemistry example, right? You know, like how you like at the career centers, it's like you're generalists, you have to be, right? And you can't get sector specific and you can't drill down. But I think that the sort of missing piece there and the piece that we skip over a lot is that chemistry in the classroom is not chemistry in the workplace, right? Those are very different things, you know, like, and that's kind of like the gap that we're talking about. So like one of the solutions for that gap in terms of like industry partnerships is if you know somebody, I'm going to stick with chemistry. If you know somebody who is working in a lab and is using their chemistry degree like professionally, bring them into the classroom. Like make a touch point once a semester for like whatever it is that you're teaching to bring that professional in so they can talk about how they are using their degree in surprising ways. You know, like, wow, I didn't think that this is where I was going to go, or less surprising ways. Like, but making that real connection between, you know, what they're learning in the classroom and what they aren't. You know, like faculty cannot, you know, like I am never unaware of the irony, right? Where like only 3% of people who like graduate with higher degrees like stay in academia, right? Everyone else goes to the workplace. And so now we're in this situation where that 3% who didn't, who didn't go out into the workplace are now having to figure out how to get their students ready for the workplace when like that isn't something that they're an expert in, right? You know, like, and so that irony and that difficulty is like sort of where we live, right? And that's the sort of framework in which you're trying to like address these problems, you know, like so. And it isn't so much that like at a system level, it's not so much that CUNY needs more partnerships. It's not, you know, like we are already engaged with almost all of the large, you know, like businesses across, you know, New York City, whether that's Google or the financial firms or whatever it may be. What we do need to do is we need to deepen those relationships and make them less transactional. And like what I mean by that is that like there's a lot of industry fatigue of like CUNY coming to them from a variety of different portals, unbeknownst to each other, all asking the same thing, which is internships and jobs, right? But aren't asking them to do other things that like an individual who works at a company might be interested in doing, like a mock interview or sitting on a panel or coming back and like really deploying sort of that human element. And from those relationships, like particularly when you bring people into the classroom, is where like those really deep growing partnerships can flourish from. Okay, I'm kicking it to you.
Thanks. Yeah. So, and I would like to add, and this is maybe something to add to what Travis was saying about what the administration can do and what, you know, outside the classroom, what happens. And we are also doing this through CUNY Beyond, but it's thinking about how are we changing the idea of what it means to have a career or even anything post-graduation, right, on the campus. It shouldn't be that I'm in my last semester thinking about this and now what do I do? So from the get-go, from walking around campus, just in the classrooms, in the communications that we do, how are we engaging students in thinking about what they want to do after this degree? And I'm a proponent of whether you go into the degree that you went into or not, I think it's fine as long as you know what you want to do. You could have your accounting degree and work at the NFL. You could work in a museum, and you could, be an English major. As long as it's something you're interested in, you can find it, but they shouldn't have to figure that out at the end. So finding ways of thinking about around campus, whether it's through the clubs, as mentioned earlier, whether it's through events on campus, bringing in alumni, bringing in, folks in that borough even, or that area where the students live, if you're like, we're a community college, right? So that they can see themselves in those opportunities. One of the things with that we learned a lot from our MTA internship was that, right? A lot of the students that applied were like, I take the train every day, I take the bus every day. I want to understand how this works. This impacts me. I want to be a part of it. And how each campus embraced that to get students prepared for those internships is how the change happens. So we can't leave it just to the faculty or to the professors. So I think it's really, as a whole, when I'm in the classroom, walking around the building, walking around my campus, whatever that looks like, how is this being reinforced and what's happening? And it's going to look different for every school, obviously, right? There's different missions and different purposes, but I think working together with the administration and what's happening in the classroom is going to be key in making sure it balances out. So that's what I would add.
Okay. Thank you, Amna and Jennifer. That was very informative. So Travis, as Jason mentioned earlier, this will be your moment to share any stats or numbers that you can give us to better empower faculty who are interested in helping students with career success.
Yeah, just a little pressure. Do all the numbers here. Everybody will share great stats as well. But yeah, I think there are some driving statistics behind the strategy that we have at Hunter around one, just the importance of this career work on campus, but also thinking about which interventions we're investing in the classroom. We did a survey a couple of years ago of incoming students, and 75% of them cited job placement as the top criterion for choosing their college. 69% said that they needed more help with career preparation than they were getting at school. And 68% felt that college was not adequately preparing them for a career. And the survey data was a bit of a wake-up call, I think, for campus um, and just the level of services that we were offering. And so I think that's just something to note when you think about the power and the importance of this work on campus is why students are here in the first place. I think the realities of the economy, the realities of the market have shifted a lot. About 20 to 25% of our students are going to go straight into a graduate program afterwards, but the vast majority are looking for that full-time employment, looking for that stable salary to kickstart their career. And so thinking about how we're serving that majority of students through the classroom is increasingly important. And so a few of the strategies that we've already mentioned on the call, I think, are backed up very nicely with the data that we're seeing. From an internship standpoint, fewer than half of our students on campus are participating in an internship over the course of their undergraduate experience, but those that do increase the likelihood that they're employed full-time after graduation by 70%. Those numbers go up even higher if they've had multiple internships. And so I think stressing the importance of getting some of that work experience, whether it's experiential learning, a research opportunity, a 4-credit internship, or a paid internship before that junior year, before that senior year, just makes such a marked difference in the outcome trajectory for students. And then I think a few of the things that Jennifer mentioned around how to bring industry into the classroom are small touches that can have huge dividends for students. We have a couple of programs on campus. One, our practitioner in residence program that hires industry professionals to work as adjuncts or co-teachers for career-focused courses. We know that students that attend those courses are over 2 times more likely to land jobs after graduation. And we also have a roster of industry speakers that not as many faculty as I'd like are taking us up on. So it doesn't have to be a full class. It doesn't have to be a brand new course. But if you just want somebody from industry to come speak, I recommend definitely reaching out to career services or these offices on campus. We just forged a partnership with the Association of National Advertisers this past year that lets any faculty member on campus request a guest speaker a month in advance, and that can happen as many times as we want per semester. So I think there's a lot of these programs working in the background that aren't being utilized. About 40% of our faculty members are engaging with the Career Center or centrally with what we're trying to offer around labor market intelligence, alumni pathways. And so just getting that number up, getting more folks informed and engaged is also going to pay huge dividends. I think the last piece, we shared this a little bit earlier, but the emphasis on specific skills alongside degrees as a signal for qualification has been rising a lot. I think the last report I read from NACE is about 70% of employers this year are using skills-based hiring or competency checks at some point of their interview process. And we've touched on it a bit, but ensuring that students have this kind of living set of competencies that they're developing through the classroom is really helpful to try to meet the market where it is right now. Thinking about what are the learning outcomes, what are the skills gains through classroom activities can really help students translate that experience to the interview process that's becoming more and more important over time right now. So that's a bit of a number dump. I can share all those stats and where they're coming from in a follow-up as well.
No, Travis, you handled that question masterfully alone. And I thank you for giving us the numbers foundation just to contextualize. We are in this moment now where, say, many of us on the call are actively involved, of course, with career-connected learning. Some of us are at CUNY Beyond Schools, and we're now hitting this moment where the question is, well, why is this happening now? And what is the impetus for such an initiative? And I think Travis's numbers underscore we're all on the same team here. We are all, there's one thing that the many experiences, disciplines, and expertise points have in this call is that we all want our students to succeed. After graduation and want to prepare them for that and also contribute responsibly to the world, to the city. Travis, you ended by pointing out there are resources that are available that are underutilized, and that's where the next question is, because as it was pointed out earlier in the call, and I mean, Travis, you yourself said, we have to be careful with how much is being dumped onto faculty and resist that because we, of course, have a lot to do. So, Ellen, what resources at CUNY do you believe are underutilized by faculty that would better the student experience and also, in turn, help with faculty workload in this important area?
I'm going to talk a back up and mention something that I put in the chat because sometimes it's underutilized because people don't know it exists or because it's brand new. So over the last handful of years, many of the career services offices have worked with CUNY Central, have worked with faculty and alumni and employers to create career-infused degree maps. So if you have not seen them across your campus, know that they exist. It is a way to ensure that the entire population has some career guidance throughout their academic journey. So whether you're an advisor, an academic, a faculty advisor, or just somebody who can share that in their classroom with your specific area, those career-infused degree maps, we've already seen how like eye-opening they are for students, especially since we just rolled some out. We've done about half of our majors. Sometimes the seniors are like, oh my God, I wish I had that. So that's one resource. Many of the campuses have newsletters of our, your own career services newsletter. I know on our campus you can get access to that, and then you get weekly updates of what's going on, and you can decide to, amplify that message. CUNY Central has its own website, which I'm sure you all have seen, designed for faculty. We have, obviously, I shared our own website earlier. But I think broadly about within your own campus, what's the ecosystem that you could take advantage of? So at Baruch, it involves faculty taking advantage of our Center for Teaching and Learning. So we also incentivize faculty. There is a small stipend to get involved with us and Center for Teaching and Learning. We're doing an intersession program. And that's a great way to, for those that may not have even, set foot into this area to get people incentivized and motivated. Other things, other resources on a campus, your alumni relations office. So we go to them all the time when we're looking for an alum in a specific area to speak on a specific topic. They are incredible resources. We have a writing center. Our writing center staff support students when it comes to cover letters, things of that sort. They're often willing to come into classes or work with you on the assignments. We have an Excel office of experiential and community engaged learning area. So if maybe you're not ready to change your entire curriculum, but you want to think of like a project that you can do using an external employer partner, you might have resources on your campus to help you do that. We have mentoring programs on our campus through executives on campus. There may be, I know that there are mentoring programs. We're not the only ones that have something like that. So there's even CUNY Insights. I think the website is like about analytics and insights where you can get, it's much more than we can do today to go over the CUNY dashboards, but there's information where you can learn about what are students doing, you know, 1 year out, 3 year out, 5 years out. And, you know, hopefully, I know in career services, we have amplified events where students are working, where we share events across CUNY. It would be lovely also, maybe you find faculty that are doing similar things that you're doing in other CUNYs, and you can brainstorm with each other around what you're doing. So there are so many different possibilities, and many of them are here on your own campuses or across CUNY. Those are just a handful of ideas to start with.
Thank you, Ellen. That's really helpful. And I might actually, I'm going to send a follow-up email to everybody, all participants and all career success fellows with the various links and resources that you shared. So some of the resources you just shared, I think that would be really helpful for our, yes, the insights and the dashboard, because those are actually new to me as well. So I'm really excited to take some time to dive into those. These resources, as someone on the chat is saying, are absolutely wonderful. Okay, so this is the final question from mine and Jason's end, and then we're gonna open it up after this question to our faculty to ask any questions. So, you know, panelists, you have a room full of faculty. From your vantage point, what is one thing you wish we knew or we did differently? And you can include any helpful practices that would help us enhance our classrooms, given your expertise and your experience. And we can start with Amna.
Should have seen that coming. Okay. So I think what I would like to know, and maybe I'm being selfish about this, is better understanding how you want us to engage you, right? I think there's so many different ways that we're doing it right now. Some staff have great relationship with faculty directly. Some folks go through career services. Some folks go to the department, and oftentimes we get, you know, get the ones that make the most noise or the ones that respond to us, but that's not fair to you or to the students that you're working with. So it would be really great to know about what methods of communication work for you. Do you want us to go through a certain way, or how should we be participating in the process throughout the semester with you? And, you know, how much of it is helpful and how much of it is a nuisance? Open to any constructive feedback on that.
Great, thank you. I guess Denise next.
Well, first, I want to say thank you to all the faculty out there for all the work that you're already doing every day. And all of this that we're talking about, like we've heard before, it's not really recreating anything new. It's just really making those connections. So I think for me to say that maybe to start making those connections from the very, very beginning of the semester on how, you know, what you're doing in the classroom correlates with the competencies. And again, so many of you are already doing this, so I'm not trying to insult anybody who's already doing that. But the sooner the students could really make those connections early on, then by the end of the semester, they'll have more confidence on how to articulate those skills, whether it be in an interview or on a resume. And, you know, also two things that are kind of goals for me is, you know, when it comes to the gateway courses, it would be great to have every student leave here our school with a solid resume. And, you know, the work that's being done already in the speech and communication classes. I have to give a great shout out to Professor Gail Lewis at QCC. Hosted an incredible event last week where we had those professionals on campus, and it was the professionals doing chats with the students, and it was like their elevator pitch night, and the response was great, and the students walked away, you know, feeling so much more confident. You know, Professor Lewis gave them a really great tool to help prepare them first, and then they went out and started talking to the employers, and it was really so valuable for the students. So, you know, all that you're doing is appreciated, and, you know, just making those connections. And as I said once before, it doesn't have to be so complicated, right? And we're here to help every step of the way.
Ellen?
Yeah, so actually, that was what I was going to say, Denise, in terms of it's not as heavy a lift as it might appear. It's what you make of it. And what I mean by that, you know, I often think and know that faculty are already teaching skills. You're already teaching so many valuable things. So something as simple as just revisiting your syllabus and connecting your assignments to NACE career readiness competencies and putting the skill that a student would gain from that. And then maybe when the students are doing that assignment, remind them, but also put it like we started the call talking about everything in the context, like faculty, a classroom is a microcosm for the workforce. So, you know, if we're talking about those assignments as building skills, like these are skills you're going to need for whatever you do. They're transferable to whatever you're going to do in the future. So I appreciate being on this call. I appreciate all that you all are already doing, and anything you can do to bring a friend or two, faculty friend or two along with you, that goes a long way. I know that Ken had to hop off, but he told me he was bringing 6 more people back into the fold when we're back on campus. So thank you, and next person.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. And again, one of the other charges of our fellows is to serve as influencers and ambassadors on their respective campuses. So they might be doing a lot of this work or a lot of the things you're mentioning, but now is the time to also spread that to other colleagues who may not be already doing it. So thank you. So I will ask Jennifer to speak next.
So in addition to what my colleagues, because you know I'm so far down the list that mine were stolen, but like in addition to the one that I mentioned, which is to build in an industry touch point in every semester, like, and that can be light lift, that can be, you know, zooming somebody in for 10 minutes to like talk, that can have be somebody showing up. Ideal situation, you take the students to the workplace, you do a trek, you know, like, but and you know, something that's happening in the CIE departments, where they have the resources to like help do these things, is that a lot of the faculty within those departments that the cohorts are in are adding sort of like extra credit points to their syllabus if a student attends like a career readiness workshop that's sector specific, right? You know, like, so that can be anything that the student chooses to do. They just have to prove that they did it, and like, and they get points that way. So like, again, like kind of a lower lift, but like, you know, like that is a like solid suggestion. It's not of my origin, that came out of CIE, you know, like that is working really well within that particular initiative.
Thank you. And Travis.
Yeah, everyone stole my thunder. I was going to emphasize the syllabus as a living document and serving as the connection to a student's portfolio. But maybe just to go for one of the white whales that we've been working on is thinking about adjunct onboarding in your departments, thinking about what it's like to come into the university new with a different set of experiences than somebody who's been here for a long time has. Maybe not being included in like department meetings and getting all the same information and resources that folks who've been here for a long time have had. What can we do to create that peer learning community, to create that onboarding experience that says, here are the best practices that we've already found and spent time developing, and here's an easier path for you to implement them than waiting a couple of years and finding out that this program exists. So I really think like around building a culture of career-connected learning. It starts with developing that community, that sense of belonging the moment folks step foot on campus. And I think that'll go a long way.
Many thanks to everyone for your insights today. It's been amazing hearing it. Anything else that the panelists wanted to add that was sparked in that round of responses? I want to open it up to Q&A in a moment, but I also want to recognize Panita. Do you have any things that you wish you could say, because we are in this interesting kind of dual role, and in your role at QCC, that you wanted to share as an answer to that very question?
No, this just confirmed, at the beginning of every Career Success Fellows year, we always tell our fellows that career services, OCIP, they are resources that you should be connecting with, and not enough faculty are doing that. And this just really confirmed that. So I'm just so glad we had you. And I know everyone felt like their thunder was stolen, but hearing the same thing over and over sometimes is necessary for us, because then we realize, okay, we got to prioritize this. So I appreciate it, and I think all of you brought such great insights and diverse perspectives to this conversation. So we really, really appreciate that. And Amna, I do love that you answered a question with a question. It's a good move. So maybe this is actually a good time to also get perspectives from our faculty about her question. So just to repeat, Amna wants to know how OCIP can be helpful to our faculty, and what are ways that we can utilize OCIP more directly. What would be helpful to all of you? So if anyone wants to put that in the chat or use the microphone at this point to say something.
And I will add even things that are not working. I really appreciate that feedback too, because then we should not continue those things. But in general, I want to take advantage of this opportunity to hear from you folks. All right, good.
Martha,
Hi, Martha. Thank you for
starting us off.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here, and I want to thank you all. This was terrific, and it's given me a lot to think about. But one of the things that really strikes me as important, and I'll speak about my own personal experience, I haven't been on the job market in 20 years. And I've been on the academic job market 20 years ago was very different than it is now. I was actually, interestingly, on the academic job market and and I'm an English professor, by the way. So I was on the academic job market and then also looking into management consulting. So I had a little bit of experience with that. The world is so different now. And so that's one issue that I want us to, maybe you could address, like, how do we help faculty who have been academics essentially their entire careers understand what the job market looks like these days, especially a job market that seems to be rapidly in flux because of AI and the changes that that is bringing, and also recognizing that faculty are often being asked to do more and more. We have probably thousands upon thousands of initiatives that we're getting that we would love to participate in. But like, so maybe one of the things we could ask from you all is like, get us up to speed somehow. How can we do that? And help us really understand the lay of the land, which many of us have not participated in at all, and certainly not in recent years. And thank you for addressing that.
Thank you, Martha. Who wants to take that on?
We'll spare you the alphabetical order.
I could talk to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I see Jennifer and Ellen, you also were brave. So yes, Denise.
One thing that we've started doing is our office has been going to each department's faculty meetings every semester, whoever will have us. So we would go to the English department's faculty meeting or the social sciences, and then we would introduce to them, some of the initiatives that we were working on, how they can work with us. And that's an opportunity for us to share, different things that are going on in the job market, in career services, and all of that stuff. So that's just one way that we've been trying to, connect more to faculty on things that are happening.
So if you're on LinkedIn, I have one suggestion. One place where I keep up to date and I see in short snippets, if you follow NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges Employers, a lot, I don't know, Travis, if you got some of your data from them and other colleagues were citing them, but on a regular basis, they're the ones who are surveying the employers every year. They're the ones who are serving, the campuses and our students. We give our post-graduation data. We share our data. Most career services offices share our data back to NACE, and then we see it nationally. So not to put more work on faculty, but just simply following them, you will get really quick, like snippets that give you headlines that I think are really helpful. That 2 cents.
I'm going to go down a different road because that's kind of who I am. But like, literally, like the first thing that I thought of, Martha, when you were talking was like, I thought, well, why don't you do a job search? Like for yourself, like why don't you like go on Indeed or like whatever it is and start, put yourself, it's something you can do on your own time. It's something you can sort of understand, like it gives you a tactile sense of like what the interfaces are like that your students are dealing with, right? Like what you get back in your email, like how accurate it is or how not accurate it is. I mean, certainly, like, it's easy, if the request is on some level, like, is there a way for someone volunteering people to create like a workshop that is aimed at faculty to sort of go over, because for as valuable as NACE is, it is not the only like source of truth, and it's not the only, it's not the only way to sort of have that experience, right? Like that's sort of aimed at students, and my understanding of the question is like, as an adult faculty member, what would I be looking at sort of, so, I mean, I think it's totally within the realm of possibility if that was part of the request to like create a workshop. I mean, obviously, like I live in labor market intelligence in a way that most people do not. And most people don't enjoy reading those reports, but I do, so, like happy to share like that, expertise as well as like sort of the sources, because some of those sources you can actually drill down to your own sector and get that information, that in English is a tougher nut to crack because it has so many, so many possible job outcomes, like as an English theater girl herself, that it compared to like some of the other sectors.
Thank you. These were all great ideas. And these are all, again, these are feasible. These are things that we can do next week, So I appreciate all of that. Before we take Elisa's question, did Travis and Amna want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think the last thing that I'll add is just sitting down with some students or recent alumni to have them walk you through their job search experience. I think that is the most illuminating thing. I mean, going through it yourself, like probably you won't get to the same interview stages or different barriers that they're facing. Although very valuable to go see what does it actually look like to input your resume line by line on Indeed, because it's not fun. But asking them, if they successfully navigated a job search, how did you find it? Just asking that question for me has brought up networking events, certifications, kind of additional learning pathways that students are pursuing on their own without our instruction in ways that are helping us incorporate it back into pedagogy. We launched LinkedIn Learning for our campus last year for all of our students and really thought it would be kind of more of a, career exploration, like find your purpose, like do fun courses outside the classroom. Every student's doing Excel, every student's doing data analytics, just things that we're not offering in conjunction with most non-STEM majors. And so I think finding, what are the extra skills that students themselves are finding they need to have in addition to their course experience to get the job helps you think about what you can recommend within your own classroom.
Thank you, Travis. So with that, then, Amna, did you want to add anything, or everything was covered?
No, if everything was said. I think alumni are an underutilized resource. So working at your campus level to have them identify, I think we as a whole system can do a lot more with that. But yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. So Elisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, when you are in industry or you are in academia for 20 years, I share with Jason and you both looking up the alumni that have graduated from the business and technology program at City Tech. What I do is I go and look at their LinkedIn, ask them questions, like ask them guest speaker, come to events. And then I also ask them, like, see the job application process of jobs that are being posted, and of course integrating it with all this knowledge that many of you shared today, which is absolutely wonderful. Just to see the process of what it is to go through the interview, because I teach the internship class, and just really, like you've mentioned, look at that LinkedIn and see, or Indeed, and see the process what some of these students are facing. So I can empathize with students as well in their job search or their internship search as well. So that's because when you're out of an industry for 20 years, it's good to go back and look at what the students are facing. I just wanted to address that comment with the other faculty who stated, like, she's been out for 20 years, she's been in academia. And so that it does change, but just scrolling through and seeing what the applications are like, and it's much more technological. And one of the other things that I do is when I teach the internship class, is make sure the students in their cover letters use the key words that are in the job description. So when it gets analyzed through, the AI or whatever they have to match the skill set, the students have addressed that in their introduction and as they write about their courses and the skills. So it can match up. I forgot what it's called, the algorithms and stuff. So the students can see where they're matching the algorithm in the job descriptions. So that was just my thing. Thank
Yes,
you, Panita. Thank you, Jason. And thank you all. It's been so informative.
Oh, great. And we do have 7 more minutes. Thank you, Elisa. I want to make sure we get Catherine's question in. The question on how best to connect with industry partnerships. Ellen mentioned that we can connect with the career office and alumni office, which we just spoke about. Jennifer mentioned that industry partners are inundated by the volume of folks. Does OCIP have a central channel job board we could use, or is there a plan for one to be developed?
Central job board? No, we don't have a central job board. What we do have is a opportunities email that comes out from the Industry Support Hub, which surfaces all of the career readiness, internship, and employment opportunities that have come through the Industry Support Hub, and that goes out to anybody who wants to be on that list. It goes up to over 300 like CUNY stakeholders right now. If that's the question, if I'm understanding that.
I'm also just re-adding the question to the chat in case you just need a second to.
Yeah, so that was part of it. Like, how can we connect without annoying our industry partners? But also, just in general, like, there's across campus, like maybe, the same chemistry department across different campuses, or computer science, where I'm from, that maybe we are looking for the same things. Maybe there's a way to share resources. I know your office had the industry committees the past couple of years to work through developing degree maps and try to create resources. So I was just wondering, maybe, like, are there more initiatives coming up to help with, putting all that together at a central place? And how can we, like, help direct, maybe whether it's through our campus career center or alumni office or CTL, Center for Teaching and Learning, to direct also to the central one, so that we're not repeating too much across each campus.
Yeah, I mean, so the industry support hub exists for you as much as as it exists for industry, right? Like, so if you're looking for partners in a specific thing, like reach out. In your case, Kathleen, I mean, Kathleen, like, but in your case, that's cheating. But in your case, like, you would reach out to Kathleen, and like, and she would help you get to whoever you want to get to. We have just the industry partner CRM just went live this week. It'll be slowly rolling out across CUNY. Meaning, it's going to be a several year process like for that to happen. But the point of the CRM is to create those lines of sight. It isn't that you shouldn't reach out to industry partners. It's just that, best practices, speaking of professionalism, is like knowing who has already reached out to that partner, where those relationships already exist, so that when you do reach out to that partner, say, hey, I know you're already talking to Baruch, Hunter, and like Central about X, Y, and Z. I would love to get involved with whatever you're doing, or we have a different ask or a different, like thing. Can you point me sort of in the right direction? In terms of like centralized resource, like if you're talking, I mean, I think that CUNY Beyond is really sort of that centralized framework that we're like, there isn't going to be like the industry committees were a finite, project, like, so, like there isn't the intention to centralize, I think, relationships in the way that you're talking about, because relationships are like valuable at the local level, right? Like the central level, like what I'm doing at the central level is coordinating huge relationships that are multi-campus, right? So like Northwell Health is across many, many campuses and many, many departments, like, and so we can help navigate CUNY for them, like, so they don't have to go to every single department separately, but like, we pass on those relationships to the people who should have them, which is not me. I don't have the students. Like, I don't have the students, and I don't have the thing that industry partner wants in the end.
And like maybe a second slight sub part of that follow-up question is like, if we do plan a local event, like we brought in an alumni for a workshop, is there a distribution channel like we can say like, hey, everybody, here's this thing happening? And we have the Career Success Fellows mailing list, but is there maybe something else as well that we should be aware of to broadcast from our end?
So I'll speak wearing two different hats. So as a Career Center director, we love amplifying events that faculty are doing, whether it's a co-sponsored event or we're just amplifying it. We love doing that. So your campus, I would check with them. I failed to mention at the beginning of the call, I also wear the hat as one of the co-presidents of the Career Services Association of CUNY, which is the directors of all the career services. My colleague was on the call earlier, Jessica Perez from LaGuardia. She's my co-president. We have a monthly meeting. We are regularly sharing out information that should go to all campuses. So I'm happy to put my name in the chat, and I'm happy to share it with my fellow career services directors. That is a good way. We do that whether it's with employers that want to pass along information, faculty, events. That's one, semi-efficient way of us getting the word out to help you.
Awesome. Thank you. Both of you. Thank you.
And thank you for the question, Catherine. One of the hallmarks, of course, of professionalism is being considerate with folks' time and being punctual. And so we want to model as we would like to for our students. I'd like to thank our panelists once again, as well as, of course, co-moderator Punita Bansali. Thank you all for being here. And we do hope that this is useful to you in a way that even might spur your projects. Remember that you all are leaders in this, and there's plenty of opportunity, as you can see, in a space like CUNY to kind of grab onto something and put it out in the world and make it work. So you have collaborators here, be they in the central office or some of the campuses we've highlighted, and let that inform work moving forward. We're happy to collaborate with you and forge those connections, all, as I said before, for the betterment of our students and their success. So with that being said, please, of course, stay in touch. LinkedIn, for those folks who already have not made that connection, you have 5 great assets here. And we will be in touch about office hours in December, as well as the January event that will be happening. But for now, we wish you safe travel for anyone who is going away, and safety for those who are welcoming family into your home next week. We wish you the best. So many thanks.
And also thank you to you, Jason, as well. And we will, we will definitely be sending this recording over to you and all the other fellows. So feel free to share it, pass it along. There's just so much useful information here in this hour and 15 minutes that I think so many people can benefit from this. So thank you again.
Yes.
Thanks, all.
Everybody, enjoy the day.
Enjoy.